Hello and welcome to Sports Opinion, the weekly sports talk show on Channel 18. That is Public Access TV. My name is Dirk Keller. Over here is Bud Supple. Next to him is Earle Murphy. And we've got a very special guest today, Rick Heller, the head baseball coach at the University of Iowa, has agreed to join us. Thank you very much, Rick.
Thanks, sir.
It's kind of a tense time this week as the Major League Baseball draft began Monday night. And yesterday, in round 7, we learned that the Hawkeyes have lost Blake Hickman, their star junior pitcher. He was chosen by the White Sox in the 7th round. That's pretty decent money.
Yeah, you hope so, and he definitely deserved it. And a lot of us thought he might go a little bit sooner than that, but Blake is going to get the opportunity to go out and play, and we're happy for Blake.
Yeah, and
it was he from that town.
He's from Chicago, and
he's a Chicago fan.
Yeah, I think he's a White Sox fan.
Yeah, he was. He was.
Yeah, he is. He actually, growing up in Chicago, he played. I think a lot of his youth stuff was played with some of the White Sox scout teams and that type of thing. So I know he's very familiar with their organization as they are with him.
Wow.
And wasn't he drafted by the Cubs as a catcher?
He was. He was drafted by the Cubs as a catcher out of high school, and then ended up switching over to pitching when I got here. He actually did both last season, and then decided to go pitching only.
So do the majors look at Blake Hickman and say, okay, his arm is really fresh?
Yeah, they would. They would see him as a fresh arm and a kid that's going to continue to grow and get better once he gets into professional baseball. And Blake did an awesome job for us with the limited experience, and I thought our pitching coach Scott Brakeman did a really nice job with Blake, and Blake worked his tail off. He had a good summer in the Cape Cod League last year and just pitched only out there.
And the majors really take a look at the Cape Cod League, don't they? The scouts.
Yeah, they do, because it's usually the place where the best of the best college players go and play, so they get to see how they do with wood bats,
right?
With the best competition out there to evaluate them against.
Speaking of wood bats, do you ever see that coming back to college baseball?
No, I don't see it.
Too expensive?
Yeah, too expensive, and the way the game's going now, they've taken a lot of the offense out of it, and in reality, I'm not so sure that the major league quality wood bats aren't better than the bats that we swing right now from a pop standpoint. I mean, they've limited it because of worrying about injuries to pitchers and that type of thing, but I think they've got the game under control. This year, they went to a low-seam baseball to try to add more offense, and it seems to have worked. The percentages are up for home runs and runs scored, so that has helped bring some offense back. I know they'll take a look at the College World Series at TD Ameritrade this coming week and see if the numbers go up there as well. But the bats that, like, we're with Rawlings, and I think they're the best of the best as far as the aluminum bats go. It's just they have restricted the exit speed on those bats so much now they play a lot like wood.
The College World Series is in Omaha. Starts what day?
I believe it starts Friday.
Friday.
Is that right? Friday.
Will you be there?
I will not.
No.
I'll be there when we get there.
Okay. So next year. Next year you'll be there.
Well, I might run over this year because one of my former assistants is now an assistant at Cal State Fullerton, Ronnie Prettyman, and so with Ronnie being in the World Series, I might run over to try to see him. So we'll see.
Good. Well, I'm going to do a little bragging on Coach Heller. Give you a little bit of background, his profile, if you will. Rick has been head coach at 4 different universities, starting with starting with your alma mater, Upper Iowa, from 1987 to 1999. He has led all 4 schools to NCAA postseason play. After Upper Iowa, it was Northern Iowa. We remember that era because I don't think the Hawkeyes ever beat Northern Iowa while you were there.
Oh, I did a few times.
A few?
Yeah.
I've conveniently forgotten those. You were at UNI from 99 until 2009. So a good 10 seasons at least there. Then you went to Indiana State, stayed in the conference, went to Indiana State, and were there from 2009 to 2013. And you just completed your second year here at the University of Iowa. And I'm going to sum it all up here. In 27 seasons already. Does it seem that long?
Yeah, I started at a young age. Actually, I coached.
You were right out of college.
Right, I coached 2 years at the high school at North Fayette while I was in college as an assistant to Pat Bowman, and then I was 1 year as a high school coach in Bakersfield, Missouri.
Come on.
So over 30 years of coaching.
Your career mark, if I added it right, come on, Phil, we're ready for you. You're right. Coach has a lot going on with the draft today, so we got the show started a little early. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, and you probably don't even know for sure, but career mark of 761 wins, 606 losses, and 4 ties.
I don't know if it's right or
Yeah,
not.
that's a lot of games.
Yeah.
By the way, Phil Haddy, longtime sports information director at the University of Iowa, has joined us, and I'm sorry we started a little early, but
That's all right.
It's draft day.
My wife starts without me too.
yeah. Thank you very much for being here.
You got the same white shirts on.
Yeah,
That's right. There you go.
It's white shirt day. I messed up again. Okay. I don't know if any of the viewers realize, but Coach Heller grew up in tiny little Eldon, Iowa, near Ottumwa, which is also famous for the Grant Wood American Gothic painting house is outside Eldon. We also know that Tom Arnold and Roseanne built their mansion and their loose meat sandwich restaurant down there in Eldon.
Yeah.
So what was it like growing up in Eldon playing baseball?
Well, it was a lot of fun. Little leagues were thriving back then, and Babe Ruth leagues. The Little League was spent in small towns like Batavia, Agency, Hedrick, Pekin, Packwood. Those times it was Jaywalkie, Jefferson, Wapello, Keokuk counties was our all-star team. And then when you went to Babe Ruth, 13 to 15, Eldon played in the Ottumwa League, and I believe there were 8 teams in the National League, which we were a part of, and then the other town that went to Cardinal High School, it's a combined school, and they were in the American League, 8 teams there, and so I was in Ottumwa a ton, playing baseball, 13 to 15, and then back in those days, we would play Legion ball, so we would play the high school games on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and then we'd play Legion games on Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday. So you'd play a ton of ball games in the summer.
How did you get to these games? Did you get yourself there? Did your mom and dad drive you there?
My mom would take us up when we were younger.
Yeah.
We would carpool with the other parents that we'd go up to play, and then once you hit 16, you were playing Legion ball, and you just drive up on your own.
Yeah.
But Eldon was a good little town, thriving back then. The railroad, the Rock Island line went right through town, and a lot of guys were working at John Deere, and it's kind of dried up a little bit, and it's gotten a lot smaller. And the railroad quit in the early '80s, and but it was fun growing up there. We played a lot. I was kind of the guy who would be pulling guys out of the house to go play home run ball, and
You betcha.
or football or basketball or whatever.
9 a.m. I had to always wait till 9 before I could start calling in the summer.
And I would be
Yeah.
on the phone getting them out there. So we had a good run. We finished second in the state in 1981. Key Lansing beat us, rallied in the last inning. We had a 2-run lead in the semi for the state championship. Coach Schultz and his guys got us, and
They've got a heck of a baseball legacy up there.
yeah, they sure do. And it was neat for me. I ended up getting to coach Gabe Schultz, Gene's son at UNI, and so that was good to have Gene around a little bit.
Now, you brought up something interesting, Rick, and it's something that me, as a traditionalist, I don't like, and I want to get your opinion on it. When we grew up, way back in the dark ages, but you spent your entire summer going to the playground, playing what we called Indian ball back then, and baseball.
We call it work up or
I
ghost
think
ball.
that there is so much potential, how do I say it, untapped baseball talent that are sitting home playing on their phones, playing on all their video games, and they don't even bother to mess around with Little League Baseball anymore.
Right. No, I would agree with you. I usually, when I do get home, I usually drive by the fields where we used to play, and I haven't seen anybody out there playing on their own since
Sad.
probably when I was in college. But it is sad. You just don't see it much anymore, and when you do see it, it's usually with the parents, a dad or a mom or somebody who's trying to get them out there. But to see a group of 20 kids out playing an organized baseball game on their own, you don't
Hey,
see
and a
it.
lot of it's reflected in the major leagues that you see so many South American players in that, and not as many American.
Yep.
Right.
Do you still have family in Eldon?
No, my mom just she moved a couple years ago over to Fairfield. My sister lives in Fairfield, and I have an uncle that lives there, and Dad lives over there too. So, yeah.
Close by, though.
Yeah, brother in the Tomahawk.
Now, I don't know if you were around this weekend, but the Des Moines Register had a story about Little League, and I believe it was Norwalk and the Little League program there that is thriving, as opposed to most communities elsewhere where I know here in Iowa City, we struggled as a coach. I struggled to get enough kids. We cut the last year I coached, last summer. They cut back. I think we had a total of 8 teams, and the year before we had 12.
Well, and indeed, I think it sits with the parents, and I'm criticizing my own kids right now because my grandkids are like sitting inside. I think the parents need to take a few of those things out and say, you know what, you're going to go outside. You don't have to play baseball, but you're going to do something outside. You need to get some exercise. And
But there's these other leagues that started up. I think that's your biggest problem.
is the what?
My grandkids all played,
Travel leagues.
they travel all over.
I don't think personally. I don't think that's the biggest problem.
And
Coach,
another problem, I just went to Regina's junior high game, and they got 44 softball games this year.
my son's
And how
on
do
the
you
high
get
school
those
team there.
44 games in that short a time and take a vacation and stuff?
Well, it's all over by mid to late July, depending on how far the team goes in the state, and it's a commitment. If I was a kid, I'd want to have all those games scheduled because you know you're going to get rainouts, and you do. My son doesn't complain about the number of games. He doesn't complain about anything except playing time.
Well, and that, times change. I think we all realize that. But, way back when, I said goodbye to my mom and dad at 8 in the morning. I said I might be home for lunch.
Right.
And if I didn't, I'd be home at about 4 after playing all day.
Right.
And that's just, it's just a different time. And I'm sad to see that because I think, that they're losing out on a lot of what I thought was really a good way to grow up, playing different games, getting to see people. I think it all falls into place. They don't interact with the kids as much as they used to
It does.
because they got this in front of them all the time. And I'm talking about my own grandkids and stuff like that. So that,
Does Iowa City have a little league?
Not Little League. They have. Forget what we called it. It's not Little League though.
it's
The
youth
official
baseball,
Little League.
Yeah.
Out at the park.
All right, City
Yeah.
Park.
That's oldest.
Go ahead, Rick.
No, I was just going to say one thing that we didn't hit on with why baseball is dying in certain areas, because the parents do have to be involved at the younger ages, because baseball is not a sport you just pick up and go play. I mean, it's hard to play.
Right.
So you need somebody working with you, with grandpa, uncle, somebody that takes an interest when you're a little kid and plays catch with you. You need to be able to play catch.
Exactly.
The ball hurts when it hits you. So, the kids that don't have parents or family that work with them to just walk out when they're 7, 8 years old and go out for a team, they're not going to have a lot of success, and then they end up quitting or going to something else because it's a very difficult game to play well. I mean, the skills have to be practiced, and there is some fear of the ball. And so, if parents aren't involved, most of the kids are going to a different sport. A lot of kids that go to soccer, or,
Well,
that type of stuff.
But there's more and more kids getting afraid of that ball coming in.
Yeah, I mean,
You know, it's more-
well, and if you haven't played a lot of catch and you can't defend yourself, I mean, it's not a sport you're going to do very well in.
Right.
It's going to discourage you quickly.
I kind of pushed us off on a different tangent there,
No, that's what we're
let's
here
say,
for.
but
Sports
let's
opinion.
well, I think the prevailing opinion right now is the unbelievable job that Rick did this year. He put me through a few heart palpitations this year, and he knows that. But
Well, it's real.
what an unbelievable and joyous year.
It's been
I'm so
2
proud
years,
of him
I
and the
think.
team.
The attendance has been tremendous.
Yeah, well, I think too, it's been 2 years of joy because right out of the gates last season, your first year as head coach, you guys won a remarkable number of consecutive games before Big Ten season started, and it got all of our attention. I know we were talking about it. And then this season starts, and you do it again. And I can remember on this show we talked about beating Dallas Baptist, is that right? Is that their name? The Baptist school down south.
Yeah, we didn't play Dallas.
Who'd you play? Maybe
We would have beat them.
Houston.
Houston Baptist. But you did it again. You started out of the gate so fast, so strong, and it got everybody's attention. And then, first Big Ten series of the season at home against defending champion Indiana, and you swept them. And we couldn't believe it. It was just stunning.
And people say to me, well, talent wins out. And I said, well, wait a minute. That's partially true, but, and you may not like me saying this, Rick, but coaching does make a difference. It definitely, I mean, it makes a difference.
We saw the difference.
And this is in no way being critical of Jack Dom.
No.
I'm in no
Or
way,
his predecessors.
or Scott Brohammer, you know, or Dwayne Banks or anybody. It was funny because I saw Dwayne and Jack Dom at a local place that we all go to called the Coach's Corner. and I said to him, I says, you know, I says, for the first time since Otto Vogel, we've got a baseball coach. Fortunately,
This is why we have Phil Haddy on the show, because he knows the history of Iowa baseball. I only know from my era forward. Phil, that's great.
Well, and the thing about it was that last time we went to the World Series, I actually did it on radio.
1972.
With Gene Clausen.
Yeah.
Back then in Omaha, and that was unfortunately I do go back that far, but fortunately I do. It's good and it's bad because I do remember the good times, I remember the bad times, and coaching does matter.
It really matters, and those of us who were around when you were head coach at Northern Iowa remember the difference that Coach Heller made in that series.
Absolutely.
We wondered, well, I have to watch what I say here. We wondered when you went to Indiana State why we weren't allowed to have you here. And you know what? That's all in the past. You're here now, and it's been you and your coaches, your staff, your players. You have re-energized this community, the campus, the community. I mean, baseball's. I wish college baseball played in the summer instead of in the spring, in winter. But it is what it is, and
that argument's been there for a long time.
Yeah.
There's probably the biggest push in the last 20 years right now.
Really?
Yeah, there are a lot of guys who are pushing hard to get the season changed. And whether it'll happen, I hope it happens in my career. I mean, if it doesn't, I hope it happens someday, because it makes zero sense.
How about your southern states?
Well, they're the ones
They don't
holding us
want it.
back.
They're holding it up, right?
Yeah,
They know it.
well, they lose a lot of advantages.
Yeah.
And I think, I hope that someday the NCAA just steps in and says, listen, I mean, we started doing this back a long time ago because it wasn't that big a deal, really. I mean, we played a few games and they went out and played in their summer leagues, and now, I mean, it's big business. I mean,
Yes.
we could build a stadium as big as we wanted to and probably sell it out most days in the summer. If the weather was nice and we could market it like football and basketball.
Sure.
Well, you see it. You know you can, because you see what Arkansas and LSU and those guys are doing. I mean,
suddenly it becomes a revenue sport.
Exactly, and even Nebraska has done it. I mean, they are a revenue sport in the Big Ten with the weather we do have. So we know it would work, and most people out there agree. It's just getting enough votes to turn the tide, and it is happening. Because the last 2 springs have been very cold, not just in the north but in the south, especially the mid-south. And I think you're getting a lot of the coaches in those mid-south regions to flop over to our side, because honestly, when it's cold down there, they don't have the indoor facilities that we have and can practice. Now, we're in a great situation now. I don't feel like we're behind the southern schools at all because of the big indoor practice facilities we have. We don't miss a beat. I mean, we have perfect weather. We can borderline scrimmage in those places, and I felt like the last 2 years we were ahead of a lot of the southern schools when we went down because of what we could get done indoors. So with that being said, a lot of guys are flipping, and I heard a guy tell me the other day that 10 years ago they asked the Big 12 to vote on it amongst their coaches, and only one guy voted to go to summer. And they did it this past year, and only one voted not to go to summer. So we're making headway.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
good.
It is, see, there was a group in, Earle, you might have been a part of this, back in the 70s, we had a group called the Tucson Tigers. All of Iowa's spring teams went down to Tucson for basically their spring training. But when our baseball team took the field down there, that was, for all practical purposes, that's the first time they'd been out since
Right.
November.
Yeah.
And they were playing teams that had been out practicing for 3 months.
Correct.
And
It's not fair.
No, it wasn't fair.
And
They
just
cleaned up.
about the time
Yeah.
the Iowa baseball teams and tennis and everything else would hit their peak, season's over.
Correct. And that's changed to some degree. I mean, we're traveling every weekend early, and there is an official start date. Well, that was a big one when they put that rule in place, because then it eliminated us going down for the first time and them having 10 games under their belt. So at least we have a start date. It's too early, in my opinion, but it is there. And then our ability to practice indoors and do basically anything you would do outdoors has really helped us.
By the way, we're visiting with Coach Rick Heller of the Hawkeye baseball team, who just completed his second season here at the University of Iowa and had the second highest total wins in one season. 41 wins, where'd I go here? 41 wins, 18 losses overall. In the Big Ten, a sterling 19-5 record. Iowa reached the 40-win plateau for just the fourth time in school history. And the 41 victories, like I said, are the most for the program since 1985, and tied for the second most wins in school history. The Hawkeyes were invited to the NCAA tournament for the first time in 25 years. That means 1990. And they won a game, in fact, 2 games. Those are the first wins in the NCAA tournament since 1972. The team that Fred Mims and Tom Hearn and Jim Sundberg was on their
Sundberg was the
team.
catcher.
They took that team to the World Series, and so it's just been a fabulous run this year.
We had a lot of guys from Pennsylvania on that team.
72?
Yeah, we did, and it was a good team. It was a good mixture, good blend of everybody. And once again, being a traditionalist, I love what you did in bringing back the white uniforms, and I love the yellow tops. I mean, because that's old school.
Yeah.
But it reminded me so much of the old ones, and I think a lot of people saw the same thing that I did. You know, it kind of brought back some really nice old memories.
You brought back a lot of great memories for a lot of longtime Hawkeye baseball fans.
Thanks.
It's hard enough to get out there in the cold or the shaky weather, but you gave us life. The wins over Nebraska. You mentioned, again, a stalwart program in the Big Ten. Comes to Iowa City. Before they were in the Big Ten, they used to come here. Was it every year, Phil, or every other year?
I think it was every other.
Wasn't it?
Yeah,
One
every
game.
other.
And that was a big deal when they came to town. They brought a lot of fans, and they liked to shout us down and all that. And it was so
Well, they
nice
were a
to-
better program
Yeah.
than we were at the time.
Not anymore.
I'd like to know, Missouri State, are they still in?
No.
Who
No.
got them?
Arkansas.
Arkansas.
They got beat by a pretty good team.
We had one run.
Yeah.
Missouri State had been ranked in the top 10 most of the
I know
year,
that.
so they were probably better.
Yeah.
They were supposed to win, actually, and the thing that hurt them was they couldn't host, even though they could have, because they share a field with the pro team, and the pro team was in town.
the
So they
Springfield
couldn't
Redbirds.
host the super regional, so it went to Fayetteville, and of course that place is a tough place to play. They fill it up, 10, 12,000 people, and
Is that right?
yeah, and a beautiful facility, and Arkansas was playing very well at the end of the season.
Now, you played Missouri State earlier in the year. Missouri State is the team that hosted the regional that the Hawkeyes went to, and Iowa had to play them twice and lost twice to them. But earlier in the season, you faced them and gave them, was it their first defeat of the
I think it
young
was,
year?
yeah. It was a good game. We rallied late,
You knew going into that first game, this is a tough opponent.
no question. Their
Well
pitching,
coached.
well coached, and their pitching was very good. And they also swung the bats. They're very dangerous hitters, powerful guys. Tate Matheny.
Yeah.
Mike Matheny's son was a center fielder.
On the
And he
Missouri
went,
State?
I think he went in the 4th round yesterday.
Yeah.
The pitcher we
Who's
beat,
that?
Mike Matheny's son, Tate, is
the
on that
Cardinals
team.
manager. And then,
Well, you never, I mean, excuse the expression, but you really never played any dogs all season.
no, we played a very
I mean,
good
you
schedule.
started at Port Charlotte when we were down there, and you played good teams down there, and it just, continued. So you didn't have any time when you really had a breather.
No, we really didn't. And some of the teams that hadn't been as good in the past had good years. Bradley's RPI ended up being 16 overall and went to a regional, and Elvis had a great year down there. And so yeah, every team we played really was solid. And
Well, you
Missouri
played
State,
good against
Missouri State was very talented.
Missouri State, though.
Oh yeah, we
yeah.
Games.
lost
You could've
both
won,
games.
huh?
Lost both games by a total of 3 runs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you were
right.
just a hit away in either game.
Yeah,
So they were.
I thought that second loss to Missouri State, the umps were really squeezing our pitchers. That's just me. But you had a fan base following
We did.
on the computer because it wasn't on TV. And it's just remarkable what you've been able to accomplish in whether you say a year or 2 years, but you had me the minute you signed with Iowa. I just thought, finally, here
Well,
we
you
go.
blew out the window any thought that Iowa baseball was irrelevant.
Right.
I mean, because I knew that if the right thing happened, it would become relevant the way it always was
Yeah.
in the past. And like I said, that's not a criticism of the other, but it's just
Not either,
it's
no.
the right chemistry. Sometimes it's just the wrong person at the wrong time in the wrong place.
Yeah, could even be the right person at the wrong time.
But there's a relevance now to Iowa baseball, and
Baseball means
I think
a
it's
lot
gonna continue.
In this state of Iowa. And if I didn't know that before, back in the day when I worked at KCRG, we used to spend a lot of time in Northeast Iowa, where a lot of these community baseball teams used to exist, and some still do. And to sit around and talk with these older guys at the time about the town teams and what it meant to the community and how everybody would turn out for these games in the summer, and it was competitive, and they were offering jobs to get people to move to their town and play for their baseball team, and I'd never seen anything like that. I grew up in downstate Illinois, which is baseball crazy, but we didn't have town teams.
I played till I was 36 in those leagues. So, to your point, Phil, I had a vision of what it could be long before I even got here, and felt like when I was hired that if we could do some things with the field and show the baseball people that administratively we were serious about it, which is the first and most important thing. And Gary has done that, and he's jumped on board, and he told me that the day he hired me that he was gonna help us, and we've been able to run with some fundraising and had some generous donors step up and really help us with our field. And
Field, you had some catches that were just unbelievable.
yeah,
Yes.
and then we had
We've got the
we inherited
turf.
a group of guys who had talent, but attitude-wise were outstanding. I mean, they were ready to buy into.
They still have
The
to
team.
want to learn.
They have to
did.
want to.
Yeah.
And they did. And that's what I said to my staff. I said, well, it looks like there's some talent, but will they want to buy into a team environment? And they won. I felt like they gave us a chance, and we opened our arms to them and treated them like we recruited them. And that's what I told them. Wasn't here to run them off, and everybody gets a fresh start, and everybody gets a chance to prove they want to be a part of this
Yeah,
and
baseball.
ease their mind.
Baseball field is a beautiful field.
Well, you know what, the field is beautiful, and I don't know if Rick wants to say anything, but you're not done yet.
Oh no,
Because there's, I think, hope for,
Where?
well.
I'll let you say it.
Well, no, we're phase 3 is the stadium itself. I mean, we want to build a new stadium. My vision was get the playing field up to snuff so we could compete recruiting wise, and our kids had a quality place to play because we'd fallen behind in the Big Ten with what's going on in the Big Ten, which is a different topic on how baseball has completely changed in the last 5 years in the league. And this year was the best year the conference has ever had in baseball. We had 5 teams in the tournament and 3 teams that didn't get in that should have gotten in, that could have won a regional.
Who were they?
They were Nebraska, Michigan State, and who am I missing?
Indiana?
No,
Northwestern?
No.
No, what,
I see.
Yeah, Ohio State.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Michigan,
Oh, that win.
Michigan State, Ohio State, and Nebraska didn't get in, but all of them had a resume that was better than teams that did get in. But
What
they just
about-
weren't playing well at the end. But to the point, I mean, the Big Ten is going places in baseball, and we had to get caught up.
Is Wisconsin the only team that doesn't have baseball?
Yes.
and it's been quite a while. It's
It-
been,
Yes.
I can't tell you when, but I think it's been 25
It was
years.
in the 80s, late 80s,
Yeah.
I think. It really hurts our league because we can't play divisions. Because we have an odd number of teams, and it's a very strange schedule that we play. It's not fair. You're missing 4 teams.
Well, you had to fly to Rutgers, and you had to fly to Maryland.
And it's a computer-generated deal where it's supposed to balance out after 20 years. But like next year, if you look at our Big Ten schedule, I mean, it is grueling. 3 of the 4 bottom teams we don't play that were in the bottom this year. But the bottom teams are good too, and they can beat you just well. But we don't play Rutgers, we don't play Northwestern, and we don't play Purdue next year.
Is that just,
But we also don't play Nebraska.
is that just the
Oh,
luck of the
geez.
draw?
Luck of the
Or is
draw.
that because you did so well
No,
this
it's
year?
complete luck of the draw.
Okay.
It's completely random.
No Nebraska.
No, but we're trying to figure it out. I mean, we met for hours trying to come up with a way to make the schedule work, and with really limited time to do it, you can't start early like the schools in the South, so you can't play everybody. My idea that a couple guys liked was let's just play everybody, and if say Northwestern is supposed to play Iowa and Iowa City on March 3rd, and we can't play, we're going south anyway, let's get a neutral site and we'll go play that game. We won't have to play a Southern school. And I'm going to bring it up again at our meetings.
I love that.
And you just play it. If you can play at home, you play at home. If you don't, you find a neutral site and you go play. And that eliminates us having to go play Southern schools and helping them out, so to speak.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's an idea. And then just no way with divisions. So.
Is Illinois on the schedule next year?
Next year they are here.
Here? Oh, sweet.
Yep.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's a shame you didn't get to play them this year, but maybe
But
not.
no
They
one
were
can
awfully
talk
good.
Wisconsin into starting back up. I don't understand.
If you guys know Barry, call him.
Yeah. Actually, this guy right here knows Barry very well. Earle, the Pearl Murphy, has. You've got Barry's number at home, don't you, Earl?
Yeah.
No, it's once they're gone, they usually don't come back. I mean,
They don't.
And what was the sport? Hockey. Yeah, they have hockey.
Well, a lot of the Big Ten teams have hockey.
There's only 5? I think Minnesota, Michigan State, Wisconsin.
Maryland, Rutgers.
They got hockey.
Well, there's another couple teams that are part of it too. I think maybe Minnesota, is it Duluth or something? But that schedule in with the big. But no, they really don't have much in the Big Ten in hockey.
No. Let's talk about the seniors on this year's team. I'd like to start with Eric Toole, 4th-year senior. Who was he your most valuable player this year? Center fielder.
I don't know that we had one most
Yeah.
valuable player this year. Now, we haven't, we have the Bob Oldest Award that goes to the most valuable player, and our players haven't voted yet. We're going to vote here into the week, and we'll see how that comes out. But Eric was definitely one of the most valuable players. I thought he did a really nice job of he's already a good player, but he took it to another level this year. His jumps in the outfield, the little things in the game that he did to improve. I just thought it was good to see him go out and work hard and get better, and not just sit back and say I'm a pretty good player. And he did that. He hit better this year. The plays he made defensively, they saved us ball games. Our outfield was, arguably the best in the league and one of the best in the country from a speed standpoint. And then also, it's one thing to have speed. I've had a lot of guys that could really run, but those guys, when they got to the ball, they caught it. You see a lot of guys, they can get to the ball, but they always miss it. But they could close and they could finish the
Sad
deal.
but true.
It's true. And those guys out there did a great job. Eric was our table setter. As we went, offensively, Eric was the guy leading us.
Is it fair to call him a natural leader, a field leader? He looked like a leader on the field.
Yeah, he was voted a captain by our team both years, and he's a good leader. He's not a very vocal guy, but he will if he needs to, which is really important. And then of course his father was a high school coach and still is at Lewis Central, and his brothers.
I didn't know that.
His brothers in professional baseball, so he had a lot of guys to look up to that understood the game, and I'm hoping that, as soon as we're done here, that I have a text waiting on me that he was drafted, because when I walked in the room, he had not gone yet,
Yeah.
but I'm sure he's going to go today sometime.
Oh, good. What about second baseman Jake Mangler?
Well, Jake, he's the epitome of a baseball player. That's what I would call him. Like the scouts would tell you, you know what? Jake didn't have that one tool that you can really brag about, the big-time arm or the big-time power or the big-time speed. He's just a really good, solid baseball player that plays hard every day, and he was infectious to the other guys.
Yeah.
And Jake is a really good natural leader, and Jake is a guy that definitely holds people accountable, makes sure guys are playing hard. He did a good job off the field, making sure guys are doing the right thing there. He was like having another coach on the field, and he made some really nice plays too this year. Defensively, I think he only made 2 errors, and I think both of them were at the very end of the season. So just played a tremendous defensive second base for us, and then he's a clutch hitter, big time clutch hitter.
I kind of liken your team a little bit this year to the Cleveland Cavaliers. You don't have a LeBron,
No.
but everybody seems to be, at this point, giving more than they have in the tank. And I thought a lot of your
Right.
guys gave more than maybe they had.
I'm glad you saw that, because as a coach, I don't really focus so much on the wins and the losses, but when I look in the mirror at the end of the year, and I can honestly say to myself, did our team overachieve this year? That's my goal. If I can get our team to overachieve, whether we win or lose, I feel good about what we've done, and I felt like these guys did that. They were talented and they were good, but they gave more, and they maybe played better than their talent even said, because they all believed in one another. And you can do great things when you're all pulling the same direction. And to me, that's what I look at. Did we get the most out of the guys that we could? And that's kind of how we judge ourselves. How our year went as a coaching staff.
Starts at the top, though. It does.
Good point, Phil. By the way, we're speaking with Rick Heller, the head baseball coach at the University of Iowa. He's been kind enough to join us here on draft day for the Major League Baseball. Chris Goodman, left fielder, another senior that will be.
Yeah, really good player, and I think Chris is going to continue to improve, and we're hoping that his name has been called when we get out of here as well, and I think it will. Chris's father was a good player, played for some professional baseball, and I just love Chris. He's probably, of the group of seniors, I'd have to say maybe the hardest worker. He's the guy that if you walked over to the cage at 9 o'clock, he might be over there hitting he's probably going to be there most nights, and he's going to be there early before practice, and he's going to take ground balls, and he improved so much from his junior year. He was a really good player for us his junior year, dual guy, needed work at third base. But man, he came back as a top-level defensive third baseman, and he absolutely saved us when Nick Day got hurt. Because, in my opinion, Nick Day was the best defender in the Big Ten at third base. And so when he went down, to have Chris come in and play as well as he did for us, he saved us with some unbelievable plays during that time when Nick was out. And then to go out in left field and plays good at left field as anybody in the conference as well. Good hitter, really improved his hitting, has some power that I think is going to play as he gets older if he gets the chance to, which I think he will. And also another leader. Those 3 guys you mentioned are 3 captains plus Tyler Ragge, one of the pitchers was. But those are 3 first-rate kids, and kids that we will really miss next year.
Nick Day from Solon, Iowa.
Yep, Nick.
Boy, did he have a memorable home run.
Yeah,
first game.
Well, that's as exciting as that might have been. As exciting a play as ever happened in Iowa baseball. To do what he did. 2 outs, 2 strikes.
2 strikes.
And
down 1 run with a runner on first. Bottom of the 9th inning.
Run and amazing,
man.
And to do it playing with the pain he was playing in. A lot of people didn't know, but most of the year Nick had to play with some pretty severe back pain. He had a stress reaction in his lower back. It got to a point where he had to take time off. I had to give him 10 days off, and it really didn't improve much. And anyway, he went out and played great for us. I felt bad when he had to shut it down because he was having a great year offensively, the best year of his career. And then when he came back, he did a really nice job and got some hits for us, but he never did get back into that groove he was in before he had to shut it down. And you know, it is what it is, and you can't do much about it, but he had a great year.
Social media just blew up when he hit that home run. It was so refreshing to see everybody out there that are Hawkeye fans know about it, get excited about it, and that just propelled fans for the rest of the Big Ten tournament, for the rest of the NCAA tournament. They were seeking you out, whether it's on TV, radio, or online.
It kind of brought back the old Jack Buck line, you know. I don't believe what I just saw.
I didn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. Oh, it was wonderful.
Who lives in Haddy?
Tyler Payton.
Tyler Payton, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Tyler Payton did.
Now, Tyler Payton is a junior, and when we get out of the show, we're going to find out if he didn't get drafted. He's probably going to.
Well, I would assume so. I mean, you just never know how the draft works. And there's a lot of communication with the kids beforehand, and if the numbers aren't right, a lot of times they won't draft you, not because they don't want to, but if they don't think you're signable, if they're not going to give you the money you want, they're not going to waste a pick. There's a lot of that stuff that goes on.
Well, is Tyler Payton going to be a pitcher or a hitter in pro ball?
He'll be a pitcher in pro ball, and he's a good enough hitter that I think he could be a hitter in professional baseball, but his money's going to be on the mound, and if he ends up coming back to school, I think he's got another jump in him. And he made a nice jump from his sophomore to his junior year. His velocity went up about 3 miles an hour, and his slider got tighter, and his control was better.
Now, he's a neat story.
His composure was much better on the mound. His presence was better.
Where'd he grow up?
Grimes.
Yeah. And his dad is still the head baseball coach there, right?
Yep. Byron Payton is one of the best high school coaches in the state. Has his team in the state tournament a lot, and we have a recruit coming from that school this year, Cole Baker, who will be a freshman next year.
Are you noticing a different, because of what's happened this year, a different level of respect, doors that open with recruits? Are some taking more of a notice to the Iowa program now that they maybe wouldn't have a year ago?
We'll find out, Phil. I mean, really, for me, being in the state as long as I had and knowing the people I knew and being a big part of the high school association for all those years and then playing the summer ball, it's been great since I got here. I mean, this class that we have coming in, was ranked #1 in the Big Ten, and I felt like we got the best Iowa kids that were here. So we were in every door, and it's just been awesome. This is just going to help make it even better. But the way recruiting is going now, we're almost 2 classes down the road, so it'll be the younger kids that we're going to find out. We've got a lot of commitments in the 16 class already, and even some in the 17 class. So things are going great in-state recruiting, which we talked about day one. It had to happen. You're still going to lose one here or there, and then the problem I'm having now is that we can't get them all. With us being the only Division I school in the state, we can't take them all because there's no room. You have roster limits and scholarship limits, and so much of recruiting is need, and what you need, and if the needs don't fit, there are some kids out there I'd love to take right now in this class, but I just don't have room for them. There's 2 or 3 kids that I just really like in this 15 class that we can't do anything with because our hands are tied behind our back.
Tell us about one that got away. Sioux City North, Dan Tillo, the basketball player.
Well, he's one that falls into that category.
Yeah.
When you're out of money, you're out of money.
When you're out, you're out.
And there's nothing you can do. And then not only out of money, not knowing what was going to happen with this draft, we went over some. This is an interesting topic. The Big Ten has a rule that you can only go over 2 scholarships, what you're allotted, okay? Which is
When you say go over, you mean offer?
Yeah, like if we have 11.7 scholarships in baseball, you can only go to 13.7.
In offers.
Hoping for some attrition.
Knowing that you're going to lose guys in the draft to cover yourself. We're the only conference in the country that has that rule. Okay, so what happens if we lose 5 scholarships to the draft? We don't have a way to protect ourselves. You see what I'm saying? So we couldn't have extended Tillo that money because
Didn't have it at the
well,
time.
in the rules, it didn't allow us to, because we couldn't go over. Do you see what I'm saying? And then, like, for example, any of the other conferences, if they think they're gonna lose 5, then they go 5 over. Some of them even just go over and just make sure, and that's why the rule's there. It's a good rule, because it doesn't allow you to be cruel to kids, which
Right.
we wouldn't anyway, the way we do things, but
SEC might.
well, some people will do that. Some people, recruiting's easy if your commitment doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
If they wait, you can commit them all or sign them all and then sort them out in the summer, yeah, you're never going to miss. It's a lot harder when you have to make that commitment early and stick to it no matter what. But to your point, yes, we loved, and we tried to get involved in some way.
Did you know all along he was going to pursue baseball instead of basketball?
No, early on, he basically said, that he was going to try to play basketball.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But we kept in touch to some degree. And
This is the Iowa Mr. Basketball
Yeah, I
in the
know what you
state.
mean.
And for the first time ever,
Where did he
Mr.
go?
Basketball,
He went to
Kentucky,
Oh,
to play baseball.
yeah, so.
Are they a pretty good program, Kentucky?
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't have the year, they had a bit of a down year this year, but they were really good the year before. So that happens in baseball. If you get hit by the draft, sometimes it goes up and down.
can I tell you a story?
Sure.
I always go with the Shrine game, and it's held at UNI. And I went with Kirk Ferentz and our head coach Ferentz. And I had a program in my hand. And I can't think of his name. The first guy,
Barry
yeah.
Alvarez.
He said, Murph, who's number 46? And I said, Bryce Pop. And he said, where's he going to school? And I said, UNI. Son of a bitch. God damn it. And he lets out a whole string of words. He said, he's the best football player I've seen this year. And I said, and he made every team was, he was an All-American. And he
All-pro, too,
And
wasn't
he
he?
went to pros, and he was everything. And they got to sign up there now. Bryce
Yeah,
Pop.
oh, yeah.
And he when he sees me, he doesn't say hi, I'm Bert. He said, hi, Bryce Pop. Bryce Pop. Hi, Bryce. And
That's why you got to call Barry and talk to him about getting baseball back in Wisconsin. One senior we haven't talked about is Nick Hibben. He was the relief pitcher that I believe finished the year without, did he not walk anybody?
Well, he walked a batter on February 13th.
That's right.
And I think he walked 2. One was an intentional walk, and then did not walk a batter until the last game of the season.
Last game of the year.
That's right.
The year Nick Hibbing had was amazing, absolutely amazing. And what a job he did in the off season. He cleaned up his mechanics. He just completely changed who he was. His confidence grew, and you guys saw the result in that game. I mean, what a warrior he was for us that day. It was funny. My best coaching tip of the year, when the bases were loaded in the bottom of the 9th and nobody was out, and we were playing Oregon in the elimination game, and we brought Nick in, and I said, well, Nick, it's pretty simple. You just got to strike this guy out and get us a double play ball. And he looked at me, and that's exactly what happened. and he came in the dugout and he hit me in the arm. He says, I did it. I did what you told me to. And then
What a moment that was, though.
oh, it was fantastic. And then the next in between games, we'd already announced Connor Grant was going to start, and Nick came up to me and he said, hey, listen, he goes, my arm feels great. He goes, you can use me. I said, well, I'm usually somewhat conservative. I'm the guy that holds back on pitch counts. And he goes, no, I'm serious. He goes, I'm a senior, and I'm not even sure if I really want to play professional baseball. He goes, you use me, and I'll be fine. My arm feels great. I said, well, okay. Well, unfortunately, we had to use him in the first inning. And then I wanted to take him out after the 6th. And he says, I don't want to go out until I give up a hit. Basically he was telling me, you're going to have to wrestle me to get me out. And I said, well, Coach Brickman told me, you get one base runner in the 7th. Okay. And he threw one pitch, and the guy got a hit, and we took him out. But what an unbelievable performance it was.
It's hard for me to believe he doesn't want to.
Well, he does.
Might not want
he
to.
does. The thing that you don't know, I mean, Nick has a really good job waiting for him in the business world. And professional baseball as a senior, sometimes they don't give those guys anything to sign. And so I saw Nick went, so I'm assuming that he spoke with the team, the club, before they drafted him, and has probably agreed to play. I mean, he wants to play. He just had to make a life decision. Does he want to start?
It's got to be the right situation.
Yeah, and hopefully that give enough money that you don't have to basically take a loan out to go play professional baseball. Which some of the seniors, they'll give them $1,000 and send them down the road. Then they'll use their slot money to give to another guy that they want to sign in the earlier rounds. That's how the game is
What's he
played.
go with? A girl? Has a girl got money?
Is it
Hibbing, who drafted him?
the Pirates, I believe? And this happened right when we walked in the door. I just got a text when we walked in. I think it's 16th round.
Oh,
Now,
jeez.
you've got so much talent that we've talked about that you're, in all likelihood, going to say adios to. How do you feel about next year?
Well,
With that in mind.
it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a big challenge. I really like the kids we have coming in, and I by no means am going to sit here and say we're going to have a down year, a rebuilding year. I mean, that's not how we're going to do it. But I mean, it's going to be a different team. It's going to be a different year. I mean, I remember saying to Gary Bart, he asked me what I thought of the roster and so forth, and I said, well, it looks like with 18 juniors, 3 seniors, and like 3 or 4 freshmen and sophomores. I said we're going to be playing with this junior class for 2 years, and if I think we can win some games with that group. But I said in year 3. It's going to be a challenge because we're going to turn the whole team over. I mean, and I don't know how many we're going to lose in the draft. The draft is going to decide a lot of this. If Tyler or Peyton comes back to school, heck, that changes things in a hurry because
Totally.
we saved Calvin, and then you got Calvin Matthews, and then you got Tyler, and then somebody like Ryan Erickson or one of the new guys can step into to Blake's spot, and we're sitting in a good spot.
Is Cole Baker one of those kids that might be able to?
Well, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, Cole, all the pitchers in this class are capable of coming in and pitching as freshmen. We didn't bring guys in to develop them. I mean, we felt like they were able to come in and have a role right away, and so it'll be a battle. It's always a battle. The best players play, and they fight it out all year long. And those guys will have a chance to compete for spots for sure. Chris Comito, we found out right before I got
Just before the show.
Chris from Norwalk. He's going to sign. So the White Sox drafted him, and he's going to sign. So we're going to lose Chris. That's the only one other than Blake to this point that I know we're going to lose. Daniel Perry is a shortstop from California that we signed, and Daniel was drafted in the 13th round by the Blue Jays, and had a chance to speak with him briefly before we came in, and he has not committed to signing. So there's still a chance that Daniel will come to school. We'll have to see how it goes. But there'll be a few more down the probably happening right now.
You've got a JUCO transfer infielder, Mason McCoy.
Really good player. And Mason's on draft boards as well. He's off to a great start up in lacrosse for Northwoods League. He's hitting like 423 with 3 home runs already this season, and he's a plus defender at shortstop.
Is that a wood bat?
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, it's a high-level wood bat.
Luke Farley is an outfielder from Waterloo. Is he any relation to the football coach?
Yeah, it's Mark's nephew.
His nephew.
Yeah, and his dad, Larry and Mark are brothers, and we're really happy to have Luke. Luke's one of the best hitters in the state, if not the best hitter. We have the 2, I think, coming. It's going to be a battle probably between him and Robert Newstrom up in Sioux City.
Another freshman
And
outfielder.
And Robert led the state in hitting last year. Who I think
Is that right?
Who's just going to be a great player. I mean, he's a tall, lanky, athletic kid that played a lot of sports, and he's going to be a really good player. And then Luke is a power guy, which we really need on this team. We didn't have a lot of power. If you guys watched us play, we had to figure out ways to score runs. And Luke can hit the ball a long way, hit it out of the ballpark. He'll probably end up in left field, but can play some infield as well, a little third, a little first base, and he's on the draft boards for people as well.
Right?
Yeah.
Infielder Mitch Bowe.
Mitch is a little shorter version, kind of Mangler.
Mangler?
He's a tough kid, plays hard.
Stout?
Yeah, he's not real stout yet, but he's going to be a little stocky, but he can really throw. He's got a 90-mile-an-hour arm across the infield, can play short second, left-handed bat. He's got a little pop in his bat for a smaller guy, but he's got a hop in his step, and he flies around everywhere he goes, and you can't teach that. So I'm looking for guys that want to play and love to play, and Mitchell loves to play.
It seems a shame we're wrapping up baseball here in early June. It's like we've talked about earlier. Hopefully, the NCAA gets the message that baseball should be played in the summer. The state of Iowa, I thought, got the message a long time ago, and high school boys baseball and girls softball is played in the summer. I grew up in Illinois, and our baseball season was done just like yours is. As soon as school's over, we're done. I love the fact that my son can play baseball when you're supposed to, in the summer. It'd be nice to see the NCAA get on board with that. There's no way the Big Ten could do it by themselves, I suppose.
Oh, you could. I mean,
You could?
you could. I mean, it would be drastic. It would be a drastic move. And,
Yeah.
I know when I was in Indiana State, there were some grumblings that they may consider it. I know Commissioner Delaney has been an advocate of changing the season and obviously trying to play, because just think about it, Big Ten, the entire Big Ten, I mean, some really, really nice stadiums now across the board, and it would be big for a league. Plus, the Big Ten Network doesn't have programming in the summer. I mean, all those games could be
Right.
televised. I mean, it could be a boon financially.
The
for
the biggest problem that you'd face is, if the others didn't go along, is the tournaments would occur, and then you'd have your schedule
Yeah.
afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, it would be, like I said, it would be drastic, but, at some point, if it doesn't give, maybe you have to threaten at least
Yeah.
to pull out, and maybe that's
Well,
what changes people's minds.
And this may be a case where, since they're giving us $20-some million a year, the Big Ten Network may say, we need some programming.
Well, it would be interesting
It's all
if they
about
said,
money.
well, it would be interesting if the Big Ten just said, here's the deal, we're gonna play in the summer, any other conference that wants to come with us, we'll have our own championship, we'll have our own, I mean, it'd be interesting to see what would happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a long shot and kind of crazy to think about, but if it did, I wonder how many other leagues would jump on board.
Northern ones, maybe Big 12.
Well, you can say a lot of things about Jim Delaney, but one thing you can't say is that he's not an unbelievable businessman. He has made the Big Ten very rich. This was the Big Ten Network was something that schools hoped to get maybe $1 million a year out of when it started, if it was successful. And all of a sudden, we're talking between 20 and 30 million a school.
It's probably going to,
So-
next round, it'll probably be 30 million.
And this was a deal that a lot of people, and maybe I snickered a little bit too, laughed at. What are we having a Big Ten network for? For the Big Ten. He's a visionary. There's no
he
doubt
is.
about that.
I was disappointed the Big Ten Network didn't have more baseball for the Big Ten tournament, the early rounds,
Well-
and then the NCAA tournament. I know it's hard.
Well, what happened was, I think the contract was drawn up when it was a 16 tournament. And so we were still operating off of those numbers, and we went to an 18
Right.
tournament with the addition of Maryland and Rutgers. Our league went to 13 teams. We went to 8 teams. We gave it a trial run last year, mirrored it after the College World Series, so they didn't have that in the contract to pick those games.
I'm glad you explained that. I just figured it was technically difficult, not
Well,
knowing when they're going to
well,
play.
it was
where.
it was a long day. Those first 2 days, the 4 games, they'd have people out there probably 6, 7 in the morning, and
Yeah.
not going home until midnight, 1 o'clock, and then doing it 2 days in a row. So, I think the real reason was they just didn't have it in the books
Right.
ahead of time.
Maybe next year.
Yeah,
So
when
it was unfortunate because we played the morning game, and so that game where Nick Day hit the home run wasn't on the Big Ten.
Yeah, when I turn on the TV at that time, and I find a lacrosse
Yeah.
tournament,
There were a lot of
saying,
people angry. A
Oh,
lot of
that
people were
ticked
angry.
me off. You bet. We kept hoping this day. Okay, this game. Yeah.
this is obviously not a lacrosse
Listen,
game.
this boy that sang today,
Comito.
will he go right to the smaller leagues and start playing next week or the
Yeah,
following
he'll
week?
start playing in a rookie league
Yep.
Right away.
Right away.
fairly soon. Yeah.
As soon as they send him a check.
I hate to do this, guys, but we're out of time. We've been visiting today with the University of Iowa head baseball coach, Rick Heller. It's just been wonderful to have you here. It's been wonderful to watch your teams the last 2 years, and I can't wait for the next season. I know here on Sports Opinion we get real excited because your season kicks in usually when the basketball season is over or about to be over, and it just means there's life. Baseball is life in my world, and you've brought a lot of life back to Hawkeye fans, to baseball fans, to this community, this campus. And for that, we're very grateful and wish you the best of luck with the draft and holding on to the recruits. And until next year, would love to have you back again. All the best to you, Rick Heller.
No, thank you very much.
As I told him, at least for this year, you demand.
Thank you for tuning in to Sports Opinion every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. on Channel 18. You can also catch a rerun of the show on Sundays at 6 p.m. You can go to my Facebook page and check out all of the programs, or you can go to patv.tv, and all of the Sports Opinion shows are on there too. So on behalf of Phil Haddy and Bud Supel and Earle Murphy, I'm Dirk Keller, once again thanking Rick Heller for being here today. And remember, either you're a Hawk or you're not. Go Hawks, all the way.
I had a grandson go to Cornell College. That's the best thing those kids ever did, come to that stadium. They just could not believe it.
Are you related to Bart Supel and those guys?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I played with Bart at Upper Iowa.
Oh, okay, sure.
Phil, or Rick, good luck. I hope we'll be paying attention. I've been following the draft.